We're live, everybody, and it is time for the Sound Off. No Name Cinema Society Sound Off. To explain that to everybody, actually, I'm not going to do that. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce myself. I'm Jonathan Betzler. I'm one of your hosts for the evening, and I've got my co-host with me right now, and from Charlotte, North Carolina, is Davie Joseph. Dave, what are you drinking tonight?
Nothing.
Not living up to his name.
Yeah,
And
it's too bad.
J Money, what about yourself?
I've moved on to my second bottle of wine. I'm going for a white this evening, a nice little spritz.
I've got a Shiraz going here in my little kid's glass.
Oh, you are a very cultured man. Shiraz in the
true.
kid's glass.
Rocking it. And J Money, what do you got? What kind of white?
That's a good question. I don't really pay attention to white because who does? It's like drinking water at this point, you know?
Wow. I'm a big
Right.
Sauvignon Blanc fan, but I guess you would judge me for saying that.
Anything's okay at brunch, JB.
What's that?
Anything's okay at brunch.
Okay, J Money's in Brooklyn, New York right now. I am in Riverdale, which is in the Bronx of New York. We're about 14 miles apart, but we'll be this close for the last time in a long time. I'm back to LA next week, and our next broadcast will be February 8th when I'm in LA. And I know the owner of this apartment, Greg, is very excited about that.
No, how could that be?
Before we go on,
I'm drinking part Gatorade and part water. Just for everyone who cares.
part Gatorade and part water. You're live, you know that, right? So anyway,
Greg is by far the most responsible of it.
That's what this segment is all about. And to explain it, I'm always explaining the sound off, but I'm going to let J Money do it.
Great. The sound off is about us cutting loose, saying whatever we want in a very stylized fashion. Davie has a lot of anger inside of him that he needs to get out whenever he can, because otherwise it will destroy the universe. And JB is full of opinions, as we all know very well, and he just loves any form to give even more of them. So that's what the sound off is in a nutshell.
And lists. I like lists.
Lists are a big thing for you. Listicles and lists.
So with that said, Davie, I just want to let you know, Greg had a question for you off camera while we were switching over, and I told him that you were the initiator of this whole project, our boss, if you will, and he wants to know why you didn't give it a name.
Oh wow, I don't do a whole lot. I came up with this and I was like, all right, guys, make it happen.
The rest is on us. Okay, fair enough.
Pretty much.
Well, we've got a lot tonight in terms of this segment. It is time for Davie's Diatribe, and he's got something special for us tonight because we started with last week. We did it where I asked him a question and asked him to opine, but now he's got something he wants to rant on. So we're going to start there.
All right,
Davie Joe, take it away.
Yeah. So all right. So we've talked a little bit. I mentioned how I had a problem with the Terminator when there was a dispute about seats in in assigned seating. It's happened to me now twice where I get a seat and then I end up being in the middle of a party.
And that was Davie's Diatribe, everyone. Thank you very much.
So
Good.
at the fifth wave, I got two people on my right, one person on my left, and they're all together in a party. And the person on my right, of course, has to have a small child on his lap. Awesome. And they, of course, show up after the lights are out and the previews are going on. And then I see this guy leave, and I know that he's going to get concessions. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way. There's literally no way they're going to pass popcorn across me during this movie. But yes, this did happen. And I'm at my wit's end. I cannot believe this is happening. At one point, over my head.
Why could they not sit together? I don't understand.
Because they obviously bought their seats too late in the game, and I would have moved had they come before things started. I wasn't paying attention. They were sitting down, and I'm like, oh, these guys are together. I would have, of course, let the woman on my left sit in my seat and just taken that seat. Anyway.
And did you partake of the popcorn? That seems like
I thought about it.
You should have. Like, you're basically in the family at that point, Davie Joe. You probably got married this weekend. You don't even realize it. Like, you were there now.
So the story gets even better. The two people on my right will not shut up. They're talking throughout the entire film, and people are getting angry. And the thing that I could see happening was when management finally does come to throw them out, am I going to get thrown out of this film along with them as part of the group? So the manager did come and yell at them, but never did throw them out. So, all's well that ends well. But if I got thrown out and had to go see that thing again, this would be a much angrier rant. All right, there you go.
It's interesting that you mentioned that because I had also had a bad experience with the Fifth Wave, and I'm usually I'm girlfriends or ex-girlfriends or whatever have told me in the past that they're amazed that I can tune everything out while watching, especially in a theater environment. I don't hear people talking behind me or in front of me. I don't notice phones or anything. But that was not the case with the Fifth Wave. It was so much talking, texting, partying at the Fifth Wave at 34th and 8th. And I almost tweeted about it. We went out and had a drink, and I just forgot to tweet about it. But it was one of the worst experiences I've had in a long time in a movie theater.
I mean, know your audience.
Same movie.
It's getting worse, man. I don't know, because movies are expensive. Why do people do that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I think it's been a long time, that I've had that bad of an experience. And generally speaking, I go to higher-end theaters, I would say. That never happens at ArcLight Hollywood, for example, But, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been in that theater. I haven't had problems in a while, but que sera, sera. But, it's interesting. It just made me think it up. I thought to mention it now that you mentioned it.
Definitely.
So that was part one of Davie's diatribe. Let's see, it wasn't longer than we thought, but we have about 12 minutes left before we have to do the top 5. So last week I gave Davie a topic to discuss. I just threw it at him. So this week I'm going to give him a choice. We've got numbers here, and behind the numbers are different topics. And he's got to choose a number. Let's see if I can put this in order here. I don't have enough fingers.
Just like me, number 1.
Number 1. Okay, good. I'm glad you chose number 1 because I was a little nervous about talking about number 2. Okay. Number 1 is the one I was going to talk to you about anyway. And
Maybe you wake up on number 2 all the time.
Oh, ouch. Maybe. That just happened. So the phrase is no middle class, which makes it seem like it's a socioeconomic debate, but it's not. What I'm referring to with no middle class is no middle class in films. And that's one of the top things that is a concern in the entertainment industry, mainly among creatives, because the general rule of thumb is that no film can be profitable unless it's under 10 million or above 90 million. And I can talk about the math more on that if you want, because why would it, but regardless, how do you feel about that, Davie? What do you think should be done about it, so forth and so on?
It's definitely something I've heard a lot about also. And it seems to be pretty true. And it's kind of a shame. It's kind of a shame that there aren't adult movies, and I don't mean adult movies. Movies geared toward adults. In that middle range.
But for example, a film like Terms of Endearment, which is not a film I like, but that type of film would not be greenlit.
Right. It wouldn't. I think about a few of the movies that kind of fall into that category. What was the Guillermo del Toro movie? The gothic romance.
That's a genre film, but that's not the kind of thing.
But it was in that range, and it didn't make any money, right?
Crimson Peak is what we're talking about, right?
Crimson Peak, right? I thought it was a good movie, but it didn't make any money. And there aren't I mean, they're not even trying much anymore, are they? I mean, what else did
Well, I
they
mean,
do
like
last year?
the metrics suggest that they shouldn't.
Right, right. I don't, man. What do you? I mean, you gotta have some thoughts. What can they do about that?
Well, I mean, it's all about the decision makers. An interesting. Have you guys heard about Relativity Media? Relativity Media is a company that startup studio run by this quasi shady character named Ryan Kavanaugh that like half the town loves, half the town hates. It's Kavanaugh with a K. He's a younger guy, and he was a studio mogul, by 40, because he created his own studio, with investors from all over, all over the place. And probably his most famous film that they released is The Fighter, the David O. Russell film, The Fighter, which is within that range that we talked about. That's the kind of films that we're talking about. Relativity Media went bankrupt last year, Chapter 11, and it was the talk of the town because Ryan Kavanaugh, is almost like within the industry is almost like tabloid fodder. Because he's either loved or admired, he's written about a lot. Again, in the trade papers. So every step of this Chapter 11 filing has been covered and scrutinized. And I bring this up because it wasn't any of Ryan Kavanaugh's personal money, so he lost it all. And I'm circling this back to this no middle class thing because they did so. They found new investors and they're reinvigorated, and they didn't lose their films. They're releasing a film in March I think it's called The Disappointments Room, and they hired 2 new studio heads, and one of them is a 2-time Oscar winner, Kevin Spacey, is now running a movie studio. And one of the things he said is he wants to bring back exactly the films that we're talking about. And this happened. I was going to this was going to be the next thing I was going to talk about. So I'd planned to talk about this with you, Davie. But since then, since January 6th is when we had our last broadcast, or January 8th maybe, January 8th. It was 3 weeks ago. It's January 6th. And since then, Kevin Spacey and Dana Brunetti, his partner at Trigger Street, have been hired to run a movie studio. No movie stars run a movie studio except for Tom Cruise for ill-fated 8 months in which he released 3 movies. The most famous of which is Lions for Lambs, I think. Valkyrie is another, I guess. Maybe that's the most famous.
Okay.
So, like, the Tom Cruise running movie studio thing did not work. So here's Kevin Spacey saying he wants to bring back this movie. Is it is it folly, or is he a hero?
Well, he's a hero for trying. It may not work. Creed, by the way, was $35 million budget, and it made 150. But God bless him.
Again, like Creed was less of a gamble, I think, too, because
it's a property.
Existing material, it's a franchise.
Yes. So that's a good point. I mean, we'll have to see. I hope it does work out for him.
But, I mean, so how do you generate interest among movie-going audience in these movies?
I think that maybe the saving grace could be platforms like Netflix and Amazon willing to subsidize, saying
and they are.
And hopefully that actually ends up being rather than all along maybe I've been thinking about.
Is then, and this may be a slightly different topic, but it's sort of an offshoot since you brought it up. I mean, that keeps people in their houses and not necessarily in the theaters. Is that the best thing?
That's what I was getting at. I've been thinking about them as sort of dangerous and could be the thing that kind of kills the theater, but the movie theater. But maybe at the end of the day, it'll be what saves it. I don't know if are you familiar with the Movie Pass at all?
I am. I'm not a fan of it, but I'm familiar with it.
I do it, and I think that it may be the new model. I don't know. I don't know if.
But it's not catching on. It's not just me that's not doing it. Like you're the minority there, Tiger.
Yeah, but I mean, I save a bunch of money with it, don't I? I mean, I
see a lot of movies for free too, so
well, that's the point. But I still think that for people who don't and like to go to the movies, I think people like the idea of knowing what they're spending a certain amount, and then getting a lot for it, or getting as much as they want out of it. But getting back to your original point, though, if that results in more of these middle class movies that are kind of intelligent and geared towards sort of a more mature audience, that can only be good. I think, I suspect though that this is not going to work, and that
here's what you asked me how I would solve the problem, and one way I would do it is because normally P&A budgets are basically a certain percentage of the film budget. Like it's generally speaking, it is the amount they spend on P&A. Do you guys know what I mean by P&A?
Promotion and what is it?
It's prints and ads. So it's not just advertisements. It's actual film prints as well.
Sure.
Which when a distributor acquires a film, their only real expenses are prints and ads. You know what I mean? Like they either duplicating the film or product and promoting it. Those are the two areas that they need to spend on. And I think that the issue is, in that mid-budget range, like the P&A spend is tied to that proportionally. Proportionally is the word I was looking for. If they gave if they budgeted in advance, they have to believe in a product. But I think if they spend as much money on marketing as they do on some of the bigger films, like it can create not just an awareness, but also like a buzz in the sense that it creates this environment where it feels like it's a bigger film than it is. That's a risky gamble, just to some degree. But the other thing is the films that surprise people are the films that nobody expects to do well. People are all want that film that costs under $10 million and to gross 90. And historical examples are like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles of the world, or Dirty Dancing, or My Big Fat Greek Wedding, things of that nature. And so they want you to spend less, or they just want to do the tent poles. Where if they gave some of these adult-themed films a little more money, both in terms of production value and in terms of marketing, it's a high-risk, high-reward situation, and somebody needs to take some gambles because, I think audiences tend to be hungry. Last week we talked about the superhero bubble. If we start giving people something different, everyone, something's going to catch on. One of the things that we're going to do at our Oscar preview that I'm going to talk about maybe a little later is we're going to talk about the films from 1990. And as a third segment of our year-end wrap-up on February 26th. And I don't know if you guys remember the biggest hit of 1990. That was supposed to be Dick Tracy. That was the big film that everybody was getting excited about. But there's this little film called Ghost that came out of nowhere and beat the crap out of it.
Yeah.
And Ghost was Davie, I'm sure look up the budget, but I want to say $20 million. Directed by the guy that directed Airplane, for God's sakes. They were not, and at the time, Patrick Swayze and Demi Moore were not really movie stars. They were B-level stars, and
right.
They didn't have a lot of faith in this movie. Released in mid-July at a point where they were whatever. Counter programming maybe.
Oh my God. So it was $22 million the budget, and it made $505.
Wow.
Globally, it didn't make 505 domestic, but yeah. So anyway, that's my point.
That's amazing.
They took a chance on something like Ghost. They didn't spend much to market it. Really, people just found it because it was different and it hit a nerve. And we can talk more about that in 1990. But that's my example. I don't know. What do you guys? Am I too loud? Okay. So, J Money, you haven't said much, and we have only a few minutes. We have 27 seconds, but what do you got?
I saw Dick Tracy twice in the theater when it came out.
Oh, wow.
Man.
But do you have anything on this no middle class thing?
I wasn't paying attention. No, I think that you guys are you guys are talking about it from one perspective, and unfortunately, really what it comes down to is whatever the audience perspective is. I mean, there's clearly going to be reformation with the system because there has been already a shakeup within television. I assume it's going to extend to the way that the studio system works as well. I think you're going to have to understand where the audience is going to go. I think that there probably will be a big shrinkage in terms of theaters. I think that a theater experience will become something special, and you're going to see a lot more, individualized content coming out of other means of delivery. So I guess I feel like what we're seeing right now is sort of like the nadir of big studio stuff. I think it's going to become much more divided. I think you're going to have either incredibly big, expensive productions, or you're going to have incredibly small, incredibly specialized productions, and you're just not going to have the same models anymore.
Have you guys noticed lately the theater? I feel like it's doing better. I think it's a little more crowded. I don't know.
Well, it's interesting that you guys started the segment by complaining about theater audiences. I mean, I think that's something that I've heard for a long time. And that it is a driving force for keeping people out of the theaters. I mean, I think that a lot of people probably echo your experiences.
Well, I mean, like, prices are raising because they're trying to improve the experience overall. Like the dine-in theaters, plush seating, stadium seating, like seats that rock and roll with you. Like, theaters call those seats different things. So they're trying to enhance the experience so that it's something worth coming to the movies for.
Yeah, but nothing's really taken hold, right? Like 4D stuff really hasn't ever grown out of where
the dine-in theaters are mostly nice, I think.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, certainly the dine-in theaters have taken hold in Los Angeles. I'll say that much.
Yeah. It's still struggling in New York. There are new ones that are opening up. Even this year, there's a couple that are going to open up, but it feels like it's still a big ask for a lot of people. So I think it depends.
Yeah, it's interesting. New York is sort of its own thing too. Like, it's its own market in that regard. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of I feel like dine-in theaters are doing pretty well in the rest of the country. The shaking seats I think are going to fail miserably.
Yeah, that just seems ridiculous to me personally, but I've never tried it, so.
Unfortunately, it was the only screening of Hot Pursuit that I could go to, and I had to see it for this show. So that was my one experience. Every time that Vergara stood up, the seats rocked. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we have to move on, and that was Davie's diatribe. A very detailed diatribe, and I look forward to the next one next time, and it'll be pretty interesting to see what he thinks about that. Before we move on to the top 5, J Money, did you think of from our discussion last time? Have you thought of a band or musical artist that you would like to see do a musical similar to Purple Rain?
Obviously, Miley Cyrus is ready for a musical debut. I mean, there's so many places to go with that. So much deconstruction. She could do a new take on any kind of like New Orleans swing. She could go in so many different directions with that.
Who?
No, I don't have any real suggestions here. No.
Well, I think you said she.
I did say Miley Cyrus, but only because it seems like the obvious place that it actually might happen. I could actually honestly see.
Well, Miley Cyrus has just been cast in a new film.
There you go. I know that. I am on top of this.
Her co-star and director is
Woody Allen.
Woody Allen.
Woody Allen.
Whoa. This is big.
So Miley Cyrus, the new star of the Woody Allen film. I don't care about that right now because it's yeah, it's my time. It's my time, ladies and gentlemen. Time for my top 5. Oh yeah, this is the part that you've all been excited about, and I'm excited too, quite frankly. Although this one was a little bit harder, I'm not gonna lie. So this is the top 5 alien invasion movies inspired by our discussion of the Fifth Wave from earlier tonight. I gave these guys, these jokers, J Money and Davie Joe, several options of top 5s that I could do, for tonight based on either Oklahoma or Fifth Wave or Shame. And this is the one they chose. They chose Alien Invasion, we agreed on the following parameters. 1. The aliens in question do not necessarily need to be hostile. So the word invasion is taken its very lightest meaning. Secondly, the invasion in question does not need to necessarily take place on planet Earth like it does in the Fifth Wave. The invasion can be on an a human-owned operation or settlement or what have you. So those are the parameters, and they all agreed them via email. So they're agreeing. I'm cutting to them now so they can agree, with their faces.
Yep.
That's right.
All right. So those are the parameters. See, he got a big smile from J Money. He agrees. So, but with that said, my number 5 is a fairly traditional alien invasion type movie. Going back to 1951 for this one. This is The Thing from Another World. Most people know the John Carpenter remake called The Thing from 1976, I believe. Have either of you seen this film?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Oh, there was a definitely.
Yeah.
Davie Joe,
Yeah.
you're breaking up a little bit. So, I mean, this is pretty much as literal as one can get when it comes to alien invasion movies, despite its status as an actual B movie as opposed to, I think one of you guys called The Fifth Wave a B- movie. This one is an actual B movie, or low budget, intended to be small thing, but it's very artistically done. I'm a big fan. I think there's a lot of fun science, questionable science, but fun science. I think it's really well directed from Howard Hawks' protege Christian Nyby. This is one of my favorite scenes, the actual discovery of the ship under the ice, and he has some really cool high angles, some of which is done with miniatures, some pretty cool stuff. There's some decent action, some really good characters, and the underlying politics too. Whether it's xenophobia or this concept of science versus the military. I'm having some issues here. Maybe maybe this photo. Do you guys see me or a photo?
You.
I see you.
Well, shoot.
Actually, now I see Davie Joe.
Uh-oh.
Is there no photo?
Now, let's try this photo. All right, so yeah, the underlying politics, like whether it be xenophobia or this concept of science versus military, I think there's a lot going on, and that's what's fun about some of these B movies, especially of the 50s. In the sense that they had some politics, some sociopolitical commentary, and a lot of great sci-fi does that. And it almost belies the production value in terms of the sophistication of some of the ideas. So I don't know. What do you guys think of Thing from Another World? Since you guys both seen it.
I love that movie. I recorded it off AMC years and years and years ago, and I watched it many times.
AMC or TCM?
AMC. This is back before they cut the movies.
J Money, you got anything? Are you still there?
Yeah, no, I also really love this movie. I saw it actually at a relatively young age. I saw it on TNT, I believe, back when I was probably around 10 or 11, and that was actually the perfect age to see it. It really stuck with me, and it made a big impression. And I still love it. I still think it's a really well done, well executed movie, and legitimately freaky for a lot of reasons. I mean, I also really love Carpenter's version of it as well. So there's a quality to the film, just in general, that I think works for me, but. Ultimately, I think that the original one also has so much going on for it.
Well, yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think the thing about the 1951 version is it overachieves for its production value level and budget level. So, I mean, I think that's why it's closer to my heart. And I think the same thing can be said of the next film. I mean, last week when I did my Trumbo Top 5, I talked about The Brave One. And in talking about The Brave One, I talked about how we had this experiment in 2006 where me and my girlfriend at the time, we watched 25 movies from 1956. Brave One was one of them. Here is another very special B movie, and probably one of the more famous B movies. It's an iconic shot from the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers. From the director of Dirty Harry, incidentally. Some people don't realize that he did both films. So this is another B-movie standout, but seemingly, at least on the surface, politically the inverse of The Thing from Another World, where it seems to be more afraid of the communist threat at the time. Though producer Walter Wanger and the director Don Siegel disagree with that, it was this concept of they're already here, and the fact that they look the same and like they're amongst us. and the concept of communism being like the sharing thing that a lot of Americans interpreted as, losing our individuality, and that's sort of what these pod people are all about. So it does feel very like whether or not the intelligence of the concept, whether or not it was pro-communist or not, it captures the fear of communism, if not actually suggesting it's a threat. I think the editing is really well done for a for its movie of its time, and also I think Kevin McCarthy. This is one of the more famous shots. That's screaming towards the camera. I think Kevin McCarthy is all in this performance. He totally is committed to this, and then he become a fairly B-movie star that directors like Joe Dante and others would resurrect his career in the 80s in films like Inner Space and the like. But also the fun part is in the sci-fi bracket, which we haven't covered in the show, is this Invasion of the Body Snatchers just happened to go head-to-head with the 1978 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and this original version won. And that's another remake that's actually still quite good without necessarily ruining the original for me. So it sounds like you guys have both seen this Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I've seen both.
What do you guys think?
I like it a lot. But I've seen it one time, and I do need to see it again. And I haven't seen the other one, the newer one.
You've not seen the 1978 version?
No.
David, J Money, what do you think about Invasion of the Body Snatchers?
Yeah, I also love it. I actually saw this, I think, within the last 2 or 3 years, I'm going to say, for some reason. I can't remember why now. And I saw it again when I was really young, and then I saw it again, like I was saying, a few years ago, and it's amazing how well it holds up, and amazing how well there's so much subtlety to the way to the concept of what they're suggesting. We're talking about how there was a sense of it warning against communism. Through the prism of our modern times, it almost seems like it's warning about the conformity and genericism of suburbia in the 50s. I mean, there's a way that it kind of translates regardless of where you are in time. Yeah. So and again, I was really impressed by the performances. It's also a legitimately just creepy concept. There's a lot of really creepy and actually legitimately scary scenes in the movie. And I also again have a soft spot for the 78 remake. It's also really kind of an interesting movie. So.
Yeah, I think Philip Kaufman's a great director, and I think we're going to talk about him for something coming up, but I don't remember. I think he's got a movie in 1990 that we're going to talk about in February 26th. But
Dick Tracy.
So, but yeah, I mean, what's that?
Nothing. Go ahead.
I didn't. But yeah, I get no bones against the remake. But I mean, my soft spot is here. I tend to I like the original. I think it was because it's being first and original. I think it's just really sharp. And again, what it accomplished for what it had. Whereas both these remakes had more resources. And as a filmmaker, I really appreciate doing more with little. So moving on to number 3 with our 20 minutes left, less than. So I mean, it is an alien invasion, but I mean, God, the shot, even just looking at the shot is kind of impressive. Obviously, this is Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which, as you may recall, when I did my Spielberg Top 5 in episode 18.4, which is one of our more successful sound-offs, actually. This was my number 4 on my Spielberg list. So similar to Oklahoma, there's no real antagonists in this one, really. There's not hostile aliens in the end. Ultimately, they abduct people, and they are perceived as a threat, but they're not actually threatening. In the Spielberg thing, we talked about its originality, its intelligence, its emotional impact, the fact that it was character driven. I wish I could just cut to these photos without having to cut back to my face, but it is what it is. I mean, and let's be honest, the audience is probably tuning in to see more of my face anyway. But
obviously.
Yeah, I mean, duh. The cinematography is amazing. I think the lack of real antagonist in over the course of the film is really interesting, especially when transposed to the idea of politics. And it's probably a discussion for another time, but it is something to. It is an interesting commentary about the way that it's all about perception.
I mean, honestly, it's a soft antagonist, but I think that the antagonist in the film is like, again, conformity. It's really about one guy railing against what everyone else perceives as like a common thing that they can't really explain, or against the government for that matter, and still sticking it out and kind of finding his own individual path. There's a great scene where he's kind of like discovering what's actually going on, and he's destroying the boundaries of his suburbia around him to do that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that speaks a lot to the idea of him of what he's fighting against ultimately.
Well, his early movies, particularly Spielberg, is really good with this family dynamic idea.
Yeah.
And like the family scenes feel very natural and real, and in a way that seems unusual in the rest of his oeuvre. Davie, are you a fan of this film? I think you were from the last time.
Yeah, I am, but I do. It's another one that I need to see again. It's been too long.
I just recently, it came up in discussion. I guess I showed Jaws at one point or something. It came up in discussion, and I lent it to someone, and they just recently watched it and emailed me. I tagged her on here. I don't know if she's watching now, but it was she was also really impressed with it, and the lighting it sort of blew her away, as it were. And it sounds like you're a fan too, J Money.
Yeah, I've seen it probably like 6 or 7 times in my life, and it always gives me goosebumps one way or the other. I will say that I think it gives too much away. I don't actually like the fact that it gives too much away, but I'm not going to say anything negative about this movie. I still really like it.
What do you mean it gives too much away?
I think that the sort of payoff at the end is really prolonged in a way that I think is almost drawn out too much. And I also feel like that maybe they explain so much in that end sequence as well that I kind of wish they hadn't. I kind of wish they'd left some things up for mystery a little bit. But I think it's very Spielberg.
You want Steve McQueen-esque ambiguity?
Yeah, exactly. It's a very Spielbergian movie. It's not Steve McQueen-esque. It's very much like, here is absolutely everything I think about this right now, and let's see it all happen right here. And it's fine because there are so many great sequences at the end as well. But it's like there's a point where I kind of wish, I kind of wish they hadn't shown all the aliens. For instance, I kind of wish they had left that up for grabs.
Mm-hmm. So, that was one more great shot in The Fifth Wave, by the way. They had some great shots in The Fifth Wave, I have to admit, and one of them was when Zombie first walks into the base camp, the military base, and they go towards a very bright light. They go just out of focus enough where they start to look a little.
Yeah.
They get silhouetted. Do you remember the shot?
Yep, I remember that shot.
You have to make that was pretty well.
Sure.
Okay, so move on.
It was good.
All right, it's okay. It's all right. Moving on to number 2, and I'm gonna, while this movie does not necessarily have an invasion of Earth, it has an invasion of maybe a more personal nature. And so this is the appropriately titled Alien, where maybe Earth wasn't invaded, but John Hurt was, and the spaceship Nostromo, of course, was invaded. I screened it in Los Angeles in May of 2013. Very successful screening that we had there. It is also one of my top 64 movies of all time. But behind Oklahoma, I should say. But regardless, I think it's artful. I think it's beautiful in its own way. It's elegant. One of Ridley Scott's, if not Ridley Scott's, best work. Because as good as Blade Runner is, there's something about Alien that.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with that.
Combines storytelling and artfulness in a way that he doesn't. I think that I'm missing a photo. It looks like okay, well, I think it's one of the scariest movies. I think it is the scariest movie I've ever seen. I saw it Halloween, 10, 15 years ago for the first time, and in a theater in Union Square, and it scared me out of my wits. And I've never felt that scared before. That, again, good direction, good editing, well done by Ridley Scott. So it's effective in that regard. Also, one of the all-time great female heroines and strong female characters you probably grew up more in the sequel, but I think we see the start of that process here for Ripley in this first film. I mean, it's a deeply satisfying and intelligent film. I wanted to show a scene where Veronica Cartwright is about to be eaten, but I can't find that photo. So, so anyway, that's my number 2.
I converted it. I definitely remember converting it, but
you do?
Yeah.
I'm gonna look again then. But what do you guys think about this movie?
Awesome. It really is. It's great. And it's again, I sound like a broken record, but you're bringing up all these movies that I need to see again, because it's been a long time.
Okay, I found it.
Very good.
Yeah, but keep going.
I mean, I utterly love Alien. I actually love all the sequels, even the ones that everybody else hates. I love them. I just love the franchise in general, but I really love Alien. And, I think it's interesting to me because Alien, as a franchise, if you look at it, is such a great starting point for so many directors that have done really interesting work one way or the other, and they all make them their own in a special way.
Are you interested enough what influenced Ridley Scott to make Alien?
What's that?
But interestingly enough, what influenced Ridley Scott to make Alien?
No, what influenced Ridley Scott to make Alien?
Star Wars.
Star Wars, sure, of course. That makes sense given the time period.
Yeah. So anyway, what were you saying about Alien?
That I am a huge fan of the movie, but the original for me holds. I think the original is the one that I love the most, in part because I feel like it has the most realistic sense of space, and because it has the most realistic sense of an actual environment that they created. I love the production value of it, but I also love the suspense in it, and I love the darkness of it. And, how can you hate Sigourney Weaver? Like, she's perfect in this movie. She is a perfect heroine in this movie. And she's such a wonderful role model for other, female heroines to come after her. So it's just everything about this movie is something I am totally on board with. I just actually downloaded the game. I don't know how much you guys have heard about the game, but I'm sort of both eager and hesitant to get into it.
So I've got Veronica Cartwright about to get eaten here, and I just want to point out, because another film we talked about in my Hitchcock thing is, I don't know if you remember, Veronica Cartwright is, of course, the kid in The Birds.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good. Very good.
So, and she's also in the 1978 version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, for those of you playing at home.
Yep.
So Veronica Cartwright is her the theme of Veronica Cartwright in some of these horror movies. Birds. You can throw Birds in there as a potential horror movie as well. It's a running theme. I agree with everything you said about the sequels too. I mean, that's not true. The one where Sigourney Weaver was a robot, I can't get behind.
Sure.
But Prometheus, I even like Prometheus. I think Michael Fassbender, bringing it back to shame, I think Michael Fassbender Prometheus is outstanding.
Yeah.
And he's making a sequel to the Prometheus, even though it didn't do great.
Yep.
I need to see it. People at work are upset at me. I still haven't seen Prometheus. I need to do that.
I mean, I don't like Prometheus that much, but I will say that I still will get on board with it. And I also think that Fassbender is probably the best part of Prometheus, one way or the other. So.
Are you guys looking forward to Blomkamp's? Is that still happening? The Alien movie?
I believe so.
That's.
I don't believe so, but.
No, is it not happening anymore?
That's. I don't think so, but not with Ridley Scott doing this Prometheus thing. But jury's still out. I'll keep you posted on the next sound off.
Aren't they doing both in different directions or no?
I didn't. I thought that one thing changed the other, but I could be mistaken. But we'll find out. I mean, I'm sure it'll be reported on very shortly in the next few days. I don't know, a few days, but anyway. So on to number 1, and I feel like I'm on a roll so far with you guys. So far, agreement overall. Davie's squinting, thinking, "What am I going to put up here? What is it going to be?"
You're right, by the way.
And again, the word invasion is taken lightly, but my favorite movie out of all the ones that I listed is still this movie, and it was my number 3 movie on my Spielberg list from episode 18.4. In my top 50 of all time, actually ahead of Oklahoma, So since it's a pre-printed list, I can't go back on it. Obviously, it's not a hostile alien, but I mean, like, it's another great example of why Spielberg is a master storyteller. At least, especially in his early days, like in the era between, like, let's say 1974 and 1985, maybe, and had some good luck in 1993. Good stories well told, and that's what it's all about for me. Like, ultimately, that, and not that there's not more going on here in ET, but I mean it. Like, and I'm going to talk about this when we do our top 10. I mean, the first barometer is emotional impact, and then I go back and say, why did this have an emotional impact? And nowadays Spielberg, and we talked about this in Bridge of Spies a little bit when on episode 18.1. He can feel a little manipulative, but in his younger days, like, the family dynamic was so strong. His editing was so confident. Like, I just feel like it was less manipulative, and these moments really pay off. It's emotionally satisfying. The score is one of my, if not my favorite score of my all time, my top 2 favorite scores of all time. I think Elliot here is one of the best child performances of all time. I think Henry Thomas does a tremendous job. I think we talked about that last time. And shoot, did I lose another? I think I lost another. Did you convert a photo of the 3 kids by chance?
No, I never got that
Remember
one.
that one, Jim?
No.
Okay. Well, screw you. But again, the family dynamic is so good. It feels so real and honest in this movie that it helps elevate it. Beyond and this is what The Fifth Wave didn't get, and a lot of movies don't get, is the more grounded that the real stuff is, the more plausible the fantasy elements feel. And it's something that M. Night Shyamalan got to some degree early in his career, and then I don't know what happened to him. And also the use of I also like the use of iconography in this film, like the flowers, for example, and this being one of the most famous shots of all time. And don't undervalue the editing. The editing is so well done in this movie, and it's an invisible art form again, editing. But the way this movie builds. And the cross cutting, I didn't get a good photo of this, but the cross cutting, like one of my favorite scenes is Elliot at school and E.T. at the house, and cross cutting their connection between them, very, very effective. So anyway, I took the alien invasion idea, and I got the approval from these guys to have a broad definition, and I just listed the movies, and this is my favorite of those movies. So anyway, E.T. guys.
Oh, it's awesome. It's awesome, and it's a movie that's still, it's like a pin in my heart. I mean, it just gets me. And
wait, you have a heart?
Oh, wow!
Ouch.
This Oklahoma thing has hit you pretty hard, man. No, I believe it or not, I do, and this is one that tugs at it. So.
All right. Well, at least we can we have ET. We have ET together. Jay Money.
We have more than that. Don't sell it short, man.
Jay Money.
I like E.T. I have a weird relationship with E.T. It was the first movie I ever saw in the theater.
Say no more. Say no more. Just stop the sentence there.
Remember that ambiguity you were talking about?
His neck extends.
Just let it go, right?
So many different scenarios. It's amazing.
No, tell the story anyway. What
Well, the first part of the story is it was the first movie I saw in the theater, and it scared the hell out of me, and I had nightmares for years about E.T. because of that, unfortunately. And I'd say there are some pretty intense scenes in it, to be fair. But then I came back.
That's not the film's fault. That's the parents' fault.
Well, yeah, exactly, yeah. And then because I went to Catholic school. In 7th and 8th grade, we did this massive semester-long project about biblical allusions, and one of the things we had to break down and compare was E.T. And there are quite a lot of biblical allusions in E.T. to Old and New Testament references, and it sort of redefined the movie for me in a way. It sort of made me confront it in a way that I hadn't since I was younger because I'd been so scared of it, and I came to a resolution about it in the end. And I also found it a fascinating process. There's obviously a very strong, you can make a very strong analogy between like Jesus and E.T. for a wide variety of reasons. But it's interesting because I know Spielberg himself has actually been confronted with these ideas and denied them outright. He's just said, no, there was absolutely never any intention for us to create anything that was at all referencing the Bible.
Maybe not from him, but maybe there was something that Melissa Matheson, had done and not necessarily shared with him.
There are some scenes in E.T. specifically that are so directly visually referencing certain things that you see in terms of iconography and statuary in the Catholic Church. That the one scene that comes to mind immediately is the scene after Elliot rescues E.T. in the van. And he walks out of the van, basically, and he has white robes draped over him with his arms outstretched and hands up, and his heart is glowing. And there's white like mist behind him and a light behind him, and that is very directly referencing a lot of things that are happening that you see in sort of classical, painting from the Renaissance of different religious scenery. There's the whole thing at the very end that I always think of with the E.T. getting back on his ark and then a rainbow appearing, which is very directly seemingly tied to the ark and the rainbow covenant with God in the Old Testament. There's a lot of weirdly weird things going on.
It's more likely that...
What's that?
It's more likely that Spielberg would do Old Testament stuff than Jesus, but I agree.
I don't know how much was intentional. I don't know how much wasn't intentional, but it's funny because we had to spend so much time looking it over and then cross-checking the Bible for it that I got really deep into the idea of those check-ins, those references, and it also, in a sense, that project made me really appreciate film on a larger sense in a way that I think developed for the way that I appreciate film now. It sort of it forced myself to look at the world in a different way, and I really kind of appreciate that. So for that, E.T. is actually an incredibly important film for me. That's where I'm going.
Well, yeah.
No,
that was a good story. So yeah, I mean, I think it's an important film for a lot. I mean, I'm a little older than you guys, but I mean, I think it was a seminal film for a lot of us. It was not the first movie, but it was top 5 probably movies earliest movies I've seen in the theater. So, but it felt like the movie that everybody was seeing at the theater at the time. Everybody was experiencing it, nationwide, similar to Star Wars now. Force Awakens. That was the top 5. Real quick, you have 30 seconds each. If you want to, what do you guys think overall? The top 5, or just mix the order up? What do you guys think?
I think there were excellent choices there. I know there were a couple of choices that were red herrings that I saw earlier that I would have also been on board with. So I'm really curious what you think about them in general. But overall, great list, JB. Great list.
No Earth versus the Flying Saucers?
They would have been 6, 7, and 8 probably, those red herrings. So.
Fair enough.
Go ahead, Davie.
No Earth versus the Flying Saucers? I thought that would be...
That'd probably be 9.
Okay.
Anyway, we got to go. So that was my top 5, ladies and gentlemen, alien invasion movies. And if you haven't seen them all, we clearly all seem to recommend all 5 of them.
Definitely.
So feel free to check those out during your leisure time. We have very limited time left, so I want to make a quick announcement we may have teased it before, but coming up, we have our next show, obviously, on February 8th, and I'll talk about that more in a second. But before that, I want to tell you about February 26th, which is probably the biggest show that we're going to do, that we've done to date. And we've already started working on it. There's a lot going on here as far as February 26th is concerned. It's our year-end wrap-up, and it's the weekend of the Oscars, so it's going to be a combination of an Oscar preview. We're going to reveal our top 10 films of the year, and we're going to do a revisionist look at the top films of 1990. I'm not sure exactly the timing, the order, but I can tell you that it's going to be February 26th, and I wanted to alert you guys to that. Now, mark in your calendars. We are really going to promote it, and we're going to hope to have a special show. We're working really hard on it. So, 2 minutes left. I want to tell you guys. Well, first of all, anything else that you guys want to talk about with 30 seconds each?
I'm good.
Nope.
Good. So that means I can tell you that our next film is Hail Caesar. It's going to be on February 8th, 2016. We're going to talk about it. That's our next current feature. We'll be teasing the indie and the classic and upcoming Facebook posts, etc. Keep looking us up on Twitter, etc. But at 8 p.m. on February 8th, 2016, which is Monday night, we're going to talk about Hail Caesar, a new Coen Brothers film. So I'm excited about that. And we got another indie from 2011, and the classic is a film that was previously discussed on Film Revision, my old show. That's another hint. Anyway, so that's that. Time to say goodbye. Davey, you first.
Goodbye.
Man of few words. J Money, take it away.
It's been a pleasure as always, gentlemen, and I look forward to seeing you again sometime in the future, unless the apocalypse does in fact happen.
All right, so it's 11 o'clock now, so it's time for me to go. So although I am not a man of few words, I'm going to keep it brief now. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. We will see you on February 8th.